This is the network service of the NTA.
Dr. Kabir Muhammed joins us now to discuss the topic, why Sukuk? He is the Chief Strategy Officer of Jaiz Bank. You're welcome.
Thank you, Musa.
Well, access to credit indeed has always been a developmental challenge in this part of the world. So tell us, why Sukuk?
Yeah, Sukuk is an interesting instrument. It's one of the features of Sukuk that makes it the right instrument for infrastructure development. Sukuk as an instrument is an instrument that makes the investor have undivided interest in an underlying asset, unlike a conventional instrument that is only the obligation of the issuer that you have as your own title.
Okay, what makes it more attractive than other?
Yes. You see, with Sukuk, if investment is done in Sukuk, it brings about prudency and efficiency in project development.
How?
When you have a conventional instrument, particularly in this part of the world, where we know that corruption is endemic, there's that likelihood that funds meant for certain projects might disappear within the system through corrupt practices. But with Sukuk, there is a governance structure that makes it close to impossible for you to move funds meant for certain projects, to other projects, not to mention siphon those funds, because there are layers of governance structure that exist under structure of Sukuk that doesn't exist under conventional funds. You have a special purpose vehicle, you have a trustee that oversee that funding and the project.
Okay. Do you see it as a viable option for carrying out projects in the country?
Yes, it is. Looking at Nigeria as a country that has, as projected by experts, to have deficit in infrastructure by 2040 that will be in the tune of about $3 trillion. So it tells you that we have so much to do in terms of infrastructure if we are to realize the benefits of the economy as a whole. But looking at the challenges that we have with conventional instruments, one would be right to say that we need a purpose-specific instrument when raising funds for infrastructure in such a way that you're matching the funds with the specific projects that you want to finance.
Okay, 28 roads projects across the 6 geopolitical zones. What impact will that be to the economy?
That's really just a piece of the iceberg. It's a scratch on the surface. We know that, yes, Nigeria is a market that is just coming into this unconventional instrument. This is the second instrument that is raised by the government. So we have a teething stage beyond which I expect the government to develop more appetite for such an instrument, taking into account the benefits we got from the first instrument that we issued, the progress made. With a Sukuk, it will give a contractor more confidence that funding that is meant for that project is already caged aside. You have a firewall that segregate that funds from general public funds. So that way we'll get to see more efficient project delivery by contractors.
Okay, let's look at it from the micro perspective. We've looked at it from the macro perspective. Now let's look at it from the micro perspective, talking about the individual. How does it actually, how will the individual take advantage of?
Yes. Individual now, I'll take, you mean from an investor perspective.
Yes.
Why should I as an investor be interested in a Sukuk other than a conventional instrument? Looking at the structure in terms of the risk-reward of a Sukuk is slightly different from a conventional instrument. So as an owner of an instrument that is Sukuk structured, you don't have only claim on the cash flow. You also have an undivided interest in the underlying asset. This could be beneficial interest on the usufruct or service to be generated by that asset. So meaning you're more secured compared to a conventional instrument. So as an investor, it will give me more comfort to put my money in Sukuk than in a conventional instrument.
Okay, what's the ideal way of seeking redress in case of default?
Okay. Typically, Sukuk is a baby instrument. If you look at the global financial market, we've not have so far enough tested cases where you have a defaulting Sukuk. There are a few, the Cameroon Oil Company, we have the Dana Oil in UAE that are still undergoing trials where such entities have gone bankrupt and Sukuk holders are trying to test what are their, remedies. But when you look at sovereign Sukuk, it's slightly unique compared to corporate Sukuk. Okay. Sovereign Sukuk, beyond you having undivided interest in that underlying asset, it also has the backing of the issuer, and which means it makes it risk-free.
Okay.
So you can have a fallback where the underlying venture or service or business or asset has defaulted. You can still fall back on the issuer, in this case, the federal government of Nigeria.
Okay, let's look at the macro picture now. What are the benefits, particularly for a recovering economy such as Nigeria?
Okay, remedies in terms of using Sukuk for development?
Benefits of Sukuk
to an economy.
Most especially, particularly Nigeria is recovering from recession. What are the benefits?
The benefits are enormous. If you look at the first instance, when you borrow conventionally, there is this possibility that down the line you may face this challenge of compounding interest. We've known the famous statement that was attributed to a former president in Japan, where he said if you ask him what's the worst thing in this world, he will tell you that it's compound interest. Okay. Nigeria borrowed $5 billion and we paid up to $16 billion, and they still tell us that we still owe them $28 billion. So with a Sukuk, you don't have compounding of rental or compounding of profit on that instrument. Okay. What you have is that ownership in the underlying asset and the obligation on the issuer to pay you the rental or the profit, but there's no compounding. So as a government, the federal government will be at more comfort knowing that this instrument will not lead to more compounding, more debt, like we experienced in the past. So in terms of debt servicing, you have a more crystal glass with a Sukuk compared with a conventional instrument.
Okay, you heard the finance minister, retail investors, particularly from the bulk of those who have interest in the Sukuk offering. What does this signify? For retail investors to have such interest, what does it signify?
It shows that not just on the issuer side, but on the resale side or investor side, it shows that there is that, voracious, interest or appetite for mixture of instrument to be there in the market. Take, for example, if I'm a fund manager, I'll be interested in diversifying my portfolio beyond certain mix of asset classes that I have. And as an individual, I'll be interested also in diversifying my personal portfolio across certain asset classes. So Sukuk, being the newest asset class in the market, is given that opportunity because it has a different risk-reward structure compared to the conventional instrument. And to the foreign investors, it will give them, more comfort. They'll be more attracted to investing, in an emerging market in a Sukuk instrument than conventional, knowing that we have governance issues, corruption and all that endemic in this part of the world. But with a Sukuk structure, they'll be more comfortable to investing in such a country.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Muhammad, Kabir Muhammed.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you for your contribution.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Now moving on, the latest monthly